Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? Welcome to part 4 of my review for Crystalized, this time going over the biggest issue that I have when it comes to this season. I definitely have a lot of issues when it comes to Crystalized, but this one is by far the biggest issue that I have when it comes to this season. Just without question, this was the biggest thing that I didn't like when it comes to this season. And so let's get into the whole thing, and in case this isn't obvious, spoilers for part 2 of Crystalized. Let's get into this. So what is the biggest issue that I have when it comes to Crystalized? The biggest issue that I have when it comes to Crystalized is the way they handled Ice Chapter related stuff. You see, for me personally, the Ice Chapter is my absolute favorite season when it comes to the show. There are so many great and amazing things when it comes to this season. Great episodes, music, character, storylines, just so many absolutely incredible things during this season. I consider the Ice Chapter to, again, not just be my favorite season when it comes to the show, but easily the most underrated season in all of Ninjago. It is absolutely amazing. And when it comes to Crystalized, they did this pretty cool thing, honestly, where they brought back a ton of characters and stuff from other WildBrain seasons, and it was something really cool to see. We got to see stuff from Prime Empire, Master of the Mountain, The Island, and Seabound, just a ton of this stuff. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Ice Chapter, it honestly feels like the bare minimum, and when it comes to the stuff that we did end up getting when it comes to this, to me personally, this felt like a slap in the face. I really didn't like this stuff. So let's get into the specifics. So for stars, like I said, Crystalized did this really cool thing of them bringing back a whole bunch of characters from all across the WildBrain era of the show, which is something that was really cool. Meanwhile, in comparison, when it comes to the Ice Chapter, we got one returning character and references to 3 other characters, and that was literally it. That's all we got for the season. And when it comes to that one returning character, it was the Ice Emperor, and they basically turned him into a massive joke for the episode that he was in. The Ice Emperor made his return in the episode The Return of the Ice Emperor, and it's only like halfway through the episode that this even happens. Like, he's brought back, and again, he's basically turned into a joke with him acting almost nothing like how he was during the events of the Ice Chapter. Like, during Season 11, the Ice Emperor was a really serious character, yet he wasn't like that at all during this season. He's acting the complete opposite of how he would normally act, and it's really strange, honestly, that they decided to do that sort of thing. And again, it's just in this one episode they have it going on, and it's only in like the halfway point they actually do this. So I'm just wondering, why is this episode called The Return of the Ice Emperor? Like, that seems really odd. And when it comes to the other characters, Sorla gets briefly referenced towards the beginning of the season with her picture appearing on a crystal spider, somehow. Another character who gets referenced is Vex, because the Ice Emperor says him by name, and I do think it is pretty cool that they reference Vex. And the last Ice Chapter character who they make reference to is Akita, by having her make a cameo appearance. But it's not even her. Instead, it's Zane's hologram disguise malfunctioning, and he looks like Akita for about 2 to 3 seconds. And don't get me wrong, I am definitely glad to see that in some way Akita is back in the show. But this was not the way to do it, honestly. Like, seriously, when it comes to all the other WildBrain seasons, they all had characters show back up and towards the end of the season and had them fighting against the Benstone army, basically being something nice for fans of these seasons. Yet when it comes to the Ice Chapter, basically nothing happens. And I don't get why NetherRealm characters weren't able to make an appearance when it comes to this season. Now you might say that it's because they're from another realm, so that's why they weren't able to show up again. But my counter argument to that is Season 10. Because during Season 10, we see Faith and Firstborn make an appearance, and they are from the First Realm. So Season 10 shows us that allies from other realms can make a return appearance when it comes to the show. So that just leaves me wondering, you did this whole thing with having allies from other realms make a return during Season 10, yet you didn't do that during Crystalized. Why exactly? And again, you had these characters from all across the WildBrain era of the show just make a return appearance, yet you excluded the Ice Chapter for basically no reason. I don't get why the Ice Chapter got basically no representation during this season, except for just references to previous characters, and the one and only character they have who was from the Ice Chapter showing up is turned into a joke. And honestly, with Akita being one of my absolute favorite characters when it comes to the show, this hurts even more because the last time we actually saw Akita was 3 years ago when the Ice Chapter first showed up, and she has not shown up again in the show ever since that. And considering the fact that we know nothing about the new series for Ninjago and what it's going to be about, this means that potentially, when it comes to 3 years ago, that was the last time we would ever get a chance to see Akita. And again, since Akita is one of my favorite characters when it comes to the show, yeah, I really didn't like that she was excluded from being in the season for basically no reason. And again, not just her, but basically every other major NetherRealm character. Seriously, I think it would have been really cool to have Akita, Kataru, the Formlings, Grimfax and his army, and Krag, just all them showing up in order to aid in the fight. That would have been something really, really cool to see, honestly. But again, it didn't happen for basically no reason. And the other major issue that I have when it comes to the Ice Chapter related stuff during this season is how they handled storylines. I touched on some of this stuff briefly during part 2 of this series, but there are some storylines that were introduced during the Ice Chapter that I thought were maybe going to get some kind of conclusion during the season, yet that never happened. Like, for example, the whole thing of Zane being the Ice Emperor. I thought that at some point they were going to bring up Zane being the Ice Emperor and him reflecting on the stuff that he did while he was in the NetherRealm. But that never happened at any point during the events of the WildBrain era of the show. And considering the idea that Crystalized was going to be the finale to the Ninjago storyline, I thought they were finally going to bring this up at some point. But they didn't. There's also the whole thing of how the ending of the Ice Chapter very clearly sets up Akita's return and sets up the idea of her and Lloyd reuniting with each other after all this time. But again, that didn't happen because Akita never showed up during the events of Crystalized. Because again, no character from the NetherRealm made an appearance during Crystalized. Which again, I don't understand why none of them showed up. And again, like I said, considering we don't know what the new series is going to be like, this means that when it comes to Akita, with the last time us seeing her was back during the events of the Ice Chapter, that means that could potentially be the last time we ever get a chance to see her when it comes to the show. So this plotline will end up going unresolved for practically no reason. Finally, the last and by far the biggest issue that I have when it comes to everything is how they handled Lloyd's arc. I brought this up in basically every video talking about stuff I don't like when it comes to the season, because just what was even happening when it came to Lloyd's arc during this season? And for those of you who don't know, starting off in the Ice Chapter, Lloyd's been going through this massive character arc of him getting over Harumi and moving on from her. Again, this started in the Ice Chapter, and we saw this going all across the events of the WildBrain era of the show, and it seemed like Crystalized would finally give us the proper conclusion to this arc. And there were moments during the events of Crystalized where it seems like the writers did remember Lloyd's arc of him getting over Harumi, with him saying that he was going to fight against her and stop her, but then there were also these moments where it seems like the writers forgot about Lloyd's developments and him getting over Harumi, with him trying to get through to Harumi and telling her to stop doing the stuff that she's doing and saying that this isn't her. And by the end of the season, Lloyd's arc just kind of ends abruptly, and that's it, basically. There's literally no conclusion to this arc at all. It just sort of abruptly ends, and it's not entirely clear as to the status on what's going on when it comes to Lloyd and Harumi. Like, they don't set up any kind of romance storyline between Lloyd and Harumi, which I am grateful for, honestly, when it comes to the show. But at the same time, there really isn't anything that said that, yes, Lloyd has finally fully gotten over Harumi and he doesn't want to be in a relationship with her. Because honestly, I don't think that Lloyd and Harumi should be in a relationship, given all the terrible stuff that Harumi's did to Lloyd over the events of the show, and how much terrible history the two of them have to each other. And how I honestly think that when it comes to Lloyd, he should not forgive Harumi after all the terrible stuff that she did to him. And so again, with that being a pretty big part when it comes to Lloyd during the WildBrain era of the show, this massive arc, to see that just abruptly ends during Crystalized feels really weird and unsatisfactory, honestly. Considering again, it's this thing that's been going for the past 3 years and there's no proper conclusion to it. Like, what the heck, honestly, is happening when it comes to all this? It makes absolutely no sense at all. Like, if they want to keep this a bit more open to interpretation, I can understand that, but it really isn't obvious. Like, for my headcanon when it comes to the whole situation, after Crystalized, Lloyd does fully move on from Harumi and he gets over her, and he decides not to be in a relationship with her, and so he decides that the pressure of being the Green Ninja is too much for him, so he decides to go to the NetherRealm and live out the rest of his life with Akita. I honestly think that would be a good way for them to end Lloyd's story, and again, that's just my personal headcanon when it comes to the whole situation. So yeah, when it comes to the way they handle Ice Chapter stuff when it comes to the season, I really didn't like it. I did like the fact that they brought up stuff related to the Ice Chapter, and it was cool to see these references, like, again, Vex getting name dropped, and in a way, seeing Akita make a return. But this was not the way to handle it. I think it would have been better if when it came to Ice Chapter stuff, again, they actually brought back characters from the Ice Chapter and had them participate in the final battle against the Vengestone Warriors. That would have been something really cool. And at the same time, give a more conclusive end to Lloyd's arc of him getting over Harumi and moving on from her. I think that would have been a really, really great thing to do, especially since with Harumi basically swapping sides and being on good terms with the ninja, it kind of goes against Lloyd's entire arc of him getting over her just in a way, like not in some kind of major way, because like there's never anything that's shown that Harumi has feelings for Lloyd towards the end of Crystalized. So just, again, like what's even going on with this whole situation with Lloyd's arc? It feels so weird. And just, again, when it comes to all this stuff relating to Ice Chapter stuff in Crystalized, I really didn't like the way they handled any of this stuff. That being said, there is a bit of an irony to the whole situation, because as a result of Crystalized basically doing the Ice Chapter dirty, it's actually made me love the Ice Chapter even more than I already do, and it's actually strengthened my opinions on the Ice Chapter. And basically for all my opinions that I have when it comes to this season, they're never going to change, actually. So in a way, I can thank Crystalized for that, but I'm still not happy about what you did to my favorite season. And so that's pretty much it. And so with that, that leaves us with the final part of this review series, with it being my overall final thoughts on the season. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.